Honorable Curtis King, welcome, sir. Members of the Board of Directors of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent, past presidents, other members, awardees, parents, teachers representing the various secondary schools, guests of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent, sponsors and all representatives here. Ladies, gentlemen, good afternoon. We're so happy to have you here in person after a 2-year break. Our last George Phillips Excellence Award ceremony was in June 2019, and we had no idea then that that would be the last time we would be gathering for a while. So it's really a pleasure to have you here in person after such a lengthy pause, and I hope that you have enjoyed the meal that was prepared for you. And we are now here to hear from some outstanding scholars, from our sponsors, and most importantly, to celebrate you, the students. I want to just give a very brief background of who we are. I never take it for granted that people know who or what Rotary is. So Rotary International, as the name suggests, is an international service organization with over 1.5 million members worldwide. Rotary provides opportunities for everybody to serve. And when I say everybody, I truly do mean everybody. In the family of Rotary, there are various groups depending on age. So for the very small children, ages 5, 6, 7, 8, we have early actors. For the teens, those in secondary school like yourselves, we have the Interact clubs. And we have 2 Interact clubs currently, one at Bishop's College and another at J.P. Eustace. And we're just about to form a 3rd at the St. Vincent Grammar School, hopefully for the new academic year. Girls High School, you're up next as well. And we'd like to have, eventually, a club in each secondary school. So teachers, look out to hear from us, right? Then we have the Rotaract Club. Rotaract is the younger subsection of Rotary, if you want to segregate by age. But Rotary has since removed that age limit. So it's typically from 18 to formerly 35, but now there is no upper age limit. And then there is Rotary, which consists of professionals in different vocations who are committed to serving. So what do we do? Simply speaking, we serve in various avenues of service. And this award ceremony today is reflective of one of our avenues of service, which is basic education and literacy. So as Rotarians, we take education very seriously. It's one of our causes for charity, and we encourage young persons like yourselves to ensure that a solid foundation is set so that you can make meaningful contributions to our productive society. So this award ceremony today is just our way of recognizing your hard work, especially over a pandemic period, recognizing your dedication to excellence and the discipline and commitment that it takes to get to where you are. And hopefully it will serve as an encouragement for you to go even further, because life has so many opportunities to offer. There are so many doors out there. Don't limit yourselves just to your small communities, all right? So when you think of excellence, I want you, young ladies and gents, to think, how can I contribute not just to my own personal development, but to the development of my community, all right? I encourage you to get involved, to serve. I think service, as they say, is really the rent we pay for being here on earth, and each of us has a duty to give back, no matter how little we think we have. Whether in terms of our time, our talents, if we are so blessed, our financial resources, there is always something to serve, some way in which we can serve meaningfully. So students, congratulations on the awards that you will receive today. Teachers, thank you so much for your dedication over the last 2 years for making it happen. I think teachers are some of our unsung heroes. I know, yes, and I'm an educator myself, so I quite understand what it takes and the tireless nights and the efforts, right? And the parents, of course, without the parents and the encouragement and support of parents, we'd have no students. So we thank you all. We're happy to have you here, and I wish you a good rest of the afternoon. We look forward to having you support the projects and the charitable events of Rotary in the upcoming year. And you will see a new face soon, because this June I will hand over the presidency to our incoming president, Daniel Campbell. So the face of Rotary may change, but our work remains the same. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Chanel. Appreciate the comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed, let me see the hands of all the parents who are here this afternoon. Parents, just wave to me. Let's give my hand, guys. Teachers, put up your left hand. A hand, please. And all the others will be students. You know, you really reminded me of what happened in the school. I was in Calder School, and the teacher asked the student, Johnny, which hand is this? Johnny said, right hand, miss, right hand. The teacher says, Johnny, which hand is this? Left hand, miss, left hand. The teacher did so. So, Johnny, which hand is this? How would I never done mix them up? We are pleased indeed this afternoon to have with us a king. Minister of Education, hardworking, dedicated, from the windward side of the island, a place called Belair, has one problem, bald-headed. Let's welcome in a special way our Minister of Education to the right thing. Welcome, Curtis King.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas, President of the Rotary Club, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, retiring President, if I could say that, based on what she has said, Janet Allen, members of the Board of Directors of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, past presidents and other members of the Rotary Club, members of the head table, and forgive me, I have to recognize as many as I can. Certainly past President Reuben John, and I know I worked with him in other areas before, very hard worker. Professor Justin Robinson, and he is from the University of the West Indies, someone I've known for a long, long time, having worked together way back. Well, I'm not going to say when, so you get an idea of his age. I don't mind my age. I think everybody knows my age. No. And of course, our local manager of Flow, Mr. Wayne, awardees, parents, guardians, teachers, and I was very happy when Dr. Thomas did give some, and President Allen did give some recognition to teachers. I taught all my life. In fact, I still consider myself a teacher and educator, even though I'm operating at a different level today, but it's still in the business of education. Other guests of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a pleasant good afternoon. It is always a pleasure to bring brief remarks, and yes, they remind me, brief remarks at any activity aimed at celebrating the achievements and progress of our students. And this activity is and has become over the years one of the calendar activities for education here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I know, yes, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had an absence of about 2 or 3 years. But I'm very happy that we are once again having this program. And I want us to put our hands together and commend the Rotary Club for continuing this very important program. I have said repeatedly that challenges are always going to be before us. What is important is that we manage these challenges in such a way that we overcome them and that we continue to live our lives in the manner in which we would want to live our lives. That is to say, in a positive way. We have COVID-19 pandemic, yes, but we have to live with it. We have to continue our lives. We have to conquer this challenge. And every time we have an activity that is face-to-face, we are actually putting another nail in the coffin of the COVID-19 pandemic. All we ask always that you do is that you take the necessary precautions. But it should not hinder us from doing all those things that we would want to do. And therefore, once again, I'm happy to be here. Now, first off, I want to say something briefly about this award. And also to speak to not so much the gentleman whom this award was named after, but I want to put it in the context of the family. Because some years ago, while teaching at the Gummy Methodist School, yes, I started at the primary level, I remember the late Mr. Henry Williams. I had gone and solicited from Mr. Williams some books to enhance. It wasn't really a library, but we were seeking to establish a library at the school. And he gave us a number of books. But I remember one he personally gave me in my hand and say, if you don't read any other book, read this one. It was a book done by Sir Fred Phillips, the brother of George Phillips, after whom this award is named. And why I bring this? Because I want to show our students that it is very important for us very early in our lives to determine what we want to do in this life. That's right. And once you set your goals early, I know you will work towards achieving them. Because believe me, there's nothing impossible. And you all know it. We always say, don't use the word can't. Yes, we can, not can't. But going back to Sir Fred Phillips, that family, George too, George was the youngest son, they all lived at Brighton. And during the early period, and this is something our teachers and principals should always remind our students. Back in the early days, educational opportunities at the secondary level was few and far apart. And in fact, in the 1920s, 1930s, period I'm speaking about, the two major secondary schools in this country were the Girls' High School and the St.Vincent Grammar School. And to get to those institutions, as ordinary people, the children of ordinary people had to work very hard. Yes. You know why? Because at each institution, the 1920s now, where I'm talking about, Only 2 places. So imagine all the bright boys and girls throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Their chances of going to the girls' high school or the St. Vincent grammar school was limited because combined there were only 4 places at those 2 schools. 2 at the St. Vincent grammar school and 2 at the girls' high school. So Sir Fred Phillips and his family, George and the others, of course, as young men, they wanted to, as young students, they wanted to continue their secondary education and they wanted to get to the grammar school. But here the heartbreaking story coming out of that book. So Fred said that when the time for what was then called not the common entrance, but the exhibition was the examination, where all the bright boys and girls had to set this exam. When the time was coming up, the chances of you passing, as I'm saying, was so slim that you had to look for the school with the best headmaster. Note, the best headmaster. Because the exam that time was so important that it couldn't be left to chance. So the headmaster was the one who taught this class that was preparing you for the exams. And he lived at Brighton. But the school at Brighton didn't have the head teacher, in the opinion of his parents, to produce a scholarship winner. So the closest school to Brighton, where you had such a headmaster, a head teacher, was the Belair Government School. Now, back in the 1920s, roads were not well developed as they are now. But his parents took the decision that they were going to send him to Belair. He then had to crisscross that area between Brighton, those of you know where Brighton is, and Belair to get to school daily, walking through bushes. He recalled that sometimes getting back home, it would have been so late that his mother had to come with a, I don't know how, well, I hope you are not too young, some of you, to know this, but with a flambeau or a lantern. That's right. To meet him halfway, to get him home safely. That is what he had to go through. But here the good thing, after all the challenges, he passed the exams in flying colors, and hence was one of 2 persons to be selected to go to the grammar school that year. We all know, well, I hope we all know about his story. These are things that we need to share in our schools, because Sir Fred Phillips went on to distinguish himself as an outstanding Caribbean civil servant, reaching to the position of governor, where we call up in St. Kitts, what used to be called St. Christopher Nevis and Anguilla at the time. Yes, we could put our hands together for an outstanding Vincentian student. So I make the point that once you know what you want, it isn't difficult to achieve it. You put your mind to get in there, and let no one whatsoever tell you that you can't. Work towards achieving your goals. And that is why I'm happy this afternoon to congratulate those students from Form 4 who will be receiving this most outstanding award. I say outstanding because a large number of the recipients of this award, they have gone on to distinguish themselves, not only here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at the level of the CSEC examination or the Cape examination, or even at the University of the West Indies. Those of you who have been following, let's see that just recently we had an outstanding young male, Porter, who graduated from Harvard University. He was a recipient of this award, and he went on, and some of the other students. So I'm saying they have gone on to distinguish themselves. It means, therefore, that those of you who are receiving this award today, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. And I hope you would take it in that light, and that you would work hard, and that, who knows, shortly we would be able, while speaking here, to refer to your own achievement at that higher level, because we know you can do it. Finally, before I sit, I feel I must indicate, as I have this opportunity, that the Ministry of Education, we will be organizing a national symposium on education on the 20th of July of this year. It will come as a culmination of several consultations that we are having with different stakeholders on what is now the buzzword, but I hope people would go beyond using the phrase now, but what has become absolutely necessary in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. That is to say, to reimagine what sort of education we want for our people, and how that education can contribute to our national development. And so all the stakeholders, well, not all the stakeholders, but representatives of all or most of the stakeholders will be involved. So I'm saying the National Symposium on the 20th will be the culmination of several consultations that we are going to be having with students and other young people, teachers and their organizations, principals, parents, guardians, and very importantly, the business sector and civil society. I hope that, and you're going to hear a lot more about this event, but I hope that you would find time to put your ideas down and to share. Because let us face it, before the pandemic, we had an education system that had a lot of great things about it. But we also had an education system that had some serious problems that we had to get fixed. What the pandemic has done is to highlight these problems, these issues, and make them even sharper. So this discussion that we are going to have will help us to address these issues. Obviously, they are not going to be addressed if we just put the ideas on paper and put them on a shelf. It is within all of us interest to ensure that that does not happen. But this evening is not really for that. So let me once again congratulate our students on your magnificent performance and encourage you to continue to do so. As you know, the Ministry of Education charged with the responsibility of delivering education to our people. We will continue to play our own part and role in ensuring that we have an education that is of great benefit both to you at the micro level as well as the state at the broader level. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you indeed, Minister King. Appreciate the contribution, and thank you indeed for taking the time off to be here with us this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a number of 9 sponsors who've helped us in this program here today. There's Tusty Water, BDO Eastern Caribbean, Jaden Incorporated, St.Vincent Brewery Limited, Grenadines Airways, help with the flight from the Grenadine, Courier's Distribution, Courier Hazels Incorporated, Flow, and Bank of SVG. We have two among them, among this list of persons here, who will give, as you look at the program, it says brief remarks by our sponsors. We'll have two of them to give brief remarks. But as I look here and I saw brief remarks, remind me of what happened in school. There was a secondary school a few years ago. Teacher was conducting an exam. There were 8 questions in the exam paper, and class was quiet. In the middle of the exam, Ephraim, anybody hear the name of Ephraim? Ephraim got up, took off his shirt, took off his pants, and teacher ran across and said, Ephraim, what are you doing? Ephraim said, teacher, question 4 says, answer in brief. So we'll have Mr. Wayne Hull speaking in brief, followed by Patricia John. How would you speak in brief? Let's welcome Mr. Wayne Hull, please.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone, and I must say, Dr. Thomas, I never knew you had such a good sense of humor. Give him a hand. Yeah, give him a hand for that as well. All right. Let me just adopt the protocol that has been established and say pleasant good afternoon to the minister and our guest speaker, our professor here from the UWI. I am really here to just indicate Flo's contribution to this event. I must say, as a non-Rotarian, I just looked at the theme here in the top right of the handout, and it says "Serve to Change Lives," and I think this event today by the Rotary Club is an indication of, you know, their ability to touch lives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I want to really applaud the Rotary for all the work that they're doing in St. Vincent and, you know, wherever the club exists across the globe. For us as well, you know, we spread the love of broadband, and when Rotarian Mr. Reuben John reached out for our support, and he explained, you know, that he wanted Flo to contribute to this ceremony and to this recognition of excellence of 4th form students at secondary school. There was no greater love that we could have shared than broadband, that is so vital to the lives of every citizen now on the globe, right? And more importantly for students as they study and prepare for their exams and just go through in school lives. So our contribution this year to this event, and this is the first time we are coming on board, will be broadband services free of charge for all of the 27 students I'm seeing here on the list for the next 2 years. So that means that we will defer the bill for your broadband services over the next 2 years. So I hope that contribution do help in your development. Okay, so on behalf of Flo, let me congratulate all of the 4th formers. Also congratulate the schools and the teachers and the parents, because they are vital in the lives of our students and to their success. So thank you and all the very best.
Good speaking in brief,
Oh boy. Good day. Good afternoon to all, and once again, protocol has already been well established. So good afternoon to the esteemed guests and everybody else that is present today, and thank you so much for having us here to be able to celebrate and acknowledge the excellent performance of our youth. Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has partnered with Rotary, I think, for the last 15 years in this initiative, which has been for some time now. And it's really something that we cherish. We love being involved in it because it doesn't only recognize a student because of their academic performance, but it looks at children holistically, and it helps us to see different areas, their extracurricular activities, their leadership skills, as well as their discipline. And we know that's something that is clearly lacking. So when your teachers and your peers would have done that evaluation, you have come out as being excellent, and we celebrate that here today. Sponsoring this George Phillips Excellence Award is just one area in which Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines shows our commitments to the youth of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Every year we normally give numerous scholarships at different levels to students, so that is something that you can look into. We also give sponsorships to school, not just for the academic performance, but also for athletics and different areas. And I think if you just walk into the doors of Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you would see we have a large group of young people that we hire every single year to start off their career in banking. So those are options that you can look into, right? Even so, our calendar for the last 7 years has been dedicated to showcasing youthful visionaries and their accomplishments. So this is something that we take very seriously. You are the youth of the nation, and you are our future. As we look at what you have been able to accomplish, I will say it's nothing short of extraordinary, because there have been so many challenges that you have faced along the way, especially in this batch. You have an unrelenting pandemic. We have dengue that came back as something that was deadly. And we had the eruption of the La Soufre volcano. And that is in addition to all the other challenges that young people face. And it was very disruptive to the educational process. And yet, after being evaluated by your peers and your teachers, you have come out as being excellent. So that is quite an accomplishment. And it really speaks to your resilience, your fortitude, and your focus. And those are things that you would need as you go forward in life, because life has a lot of different things it's going to bring your way. When I was thinking about the remarks, I came across a simple quote from a Ralph Marston. It says, "Excellence is not a skill, it's an attitude." And it's a very simple statement, but yet I find it quite profound, because while sometimes we search for excellence in academic performance only, it's very important that we have the right attitude to go along with it, because if we don't, we will never be able to achieve excellence. So we are encouraging you to have a positive attitude, a willing attitude, and a humble attitude. And that, along with your performance at school, will keep you consistently excellent. Now, I know it's brief remarks, but I just, before I wrap up, I just want to note something in regard to the account. What we give is an account at the bank with a very modest initial deposit. However, it may not seem like a lot, but the account symbolizes so much more. It really symbolizes and gives you access to a range of financial tools that you could use to navigate your entire life. This account that you will get, more than likely, when you get your scholarships, your funds can be dispersed to that account. You can get a debit card, so that when you go away and you are studying, you have access to your funds anywhere in the world. You can have your online banking, which can help you track your spending. And these tools can help you to grow into a financially responsible person. In addition to that, as you keep on forging ahead and saving, you can attain financial independence. And that same account can be used to disburse your first mortgage loan, or even start up capital for a new business venture. Later on in life, that same account can serve to get your NIS deposits as well as your pension. So I say that to say that starting with this savings account, Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is assuring you that we have you covered for a lifetime of excellence. We truly wish you the world of success as you go forward next year into your CSEC exams, as well as any other educational pursuits you undertake going forward, and encourage you to continue striving for excellence. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Two persons have asked me, why have you called this program George Phillips Excellence Award, GPEA? And over the years, we've been asked, that issue has been raised. Why George Phillips? Who is George Phillips? Well, today, to answer that question in brief, will be Dr. Jules Ferdinand, former president of the Rotary Club. I'm sure he's a national personality as well. And he one guy who fulfilled the scriptures. The Bible says even the hair on the head is numbered. He has 9 hairs on his head. Let's welcome Jules Ferdinand, please.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. You know, the little pig told the mother pig the mother pig told the little pig, when the little pig commented on how big the snout was, say, yours coming, yours coming. If you look at his head carefully, his coming. All right, it's always a pleasure to share these insights on George Phillips. Let me just say, I note the presence of very distinguished persons at the head table. They have been named, they have been called, and we are so very grateful that they grace us with their presence. George Phillips was an outstanding national of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Honorable Minister spoke about him and especially spoke about his brother. As I go through this presentation in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so, I hope to give you some insights into the George Phillips and why we have named this after him. So, in terms of his background and why we have named it the George Phillips Excellence Awards, we understand and appreciate that George, in his lifetime, and he was the charter president of our club. He was the very first president of Rotary Club of St. Vincent. He had what we would describe as a 3H focus. And those 3 H's, I've captured them here. Humor. He was a man of humor. We don't have time for me to share some of the jokes with you, but I'm not sure what's happening there. Pardon the technology there. But one that I remember vividly is when George was a very dark-skinned person. George often described himself as black. He was really very dark. And there was a time, he said, when he was in England and he was driving this car going down the road. It was in the night. And he noticed a particular policeman was looking at the car, and he figured out that the police officer really was thinking that the car was driving by itself. So he said, to put the man at ease, he decided to smile and show his teeth so that the guy would understand and appreciate that somebody really in the car. He shared a lot of other jokes with us, but he was a man also of humility. He accomplished much, and I will share with you some of his accomplishments, but he never allowed his accomplishments to get to his head. That is a sign of a big man. A big man, regardless of the title, regardless of his academic achievements, will keep the humility there. Because no one of us is as great as all of us. And there is a beauty that comes from keeping yourself humble. And the other H that you see there is the humanitarian spirit. George believed in helping people, and I'll show you some of what he did, what he helped. I put this quotation here from Goldie Hawn, because to me it reflects a lot of what George stood for. He was able to laugh at himself. And Goldie says, once you can laugh at your own weaknesses, you can move forward. Comedy breaks down walls. It opens up people. If you're good, you can fill up those openings with something positive. Maybe you can combat some of the ugliness in the world. That to me is a powerful quotation and reflects a lot about George. And some of that you've heard repeated here from the earlier speakers. So let's talk a little bit about George. Born in 1928 on the 1st of January, he went to the St. Vincent Grammar School, and the Honorable Minister described how challenging it was to get into those places at St. Vincent Grammar School and Girls High School. But George excelled not only at academics, he also excelled as an athlete. He got the nickname, which to him was an honor. He even referred to himself as that many times. He was called, while he was at school, he was called Black Magic. Black coming from the pigmentation of his skin. And here, let me put a pin in there. There's nothing wrong with being black. He was Black Magic. The magic came from the speed with which he moved. He was an outstanding athlete. He went to university in Canada, the University of Guelph, and there he excelled. Back in those days, soccer was just coming on the scene, and he was part of the soccer team, and also cricket, which was not commonly played in Canada, in North America. He had a cricket team at the University of Guelph as well. So Black Magic. Black Magic. He was determined to succeed against great odds. It is said that there was a time when he had a broken leg, but that did not keep him from participating in competitive sport. I don't recommend that. If you're hurt, you need to take care of yourself. But I just put that in there too, to talk about the type of commitment that he had. Now here are some other interesting things about George Black Magic. He had migrated sometime to Curacao and Aruba, and he had also gone and spent some time studying in the United Kingdom. And here is another interesting part about George, that after he had graduated from the United Kingdom, he had an assignment in Grenada. He specialized in agronomy, and he especially liked to take care of animals. George designed the zoo in Grenada, and at the time when he designed it, it was classified as the best designed zoo in all of the Commonwealth. Designed by a Vincentian, designed by somebody from the soil, who we now name this award after. So he returned to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and his interest in horticulture and the rearing of dogs, especially the German Shepherd, was quite evident. And as I mentioned earlier on, he was our charter president. And during his time as a member of the club, George had championed, he had energized forces to look for scholarships for Vincentians. He wanted to make sure that the young people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines had every opportunity to get access to tertiary level education. And so his focus was on academic excellence, yes, but also equally important on character. The old people will tell us manners and behavior will take you around the world. George believed in that. It's not only academic excellence. You could be very bright, but if you have the wrong attitude, you will be stunted in your position. The persons who excel in leadership and management have learned the importance of these traits that I've mentioned here: honesty, courtesy, courage, compassion, helpfulness, respect, and discipline. These are the keys to success. And these are what we hope you will continue to focus on as a recipient of the George Phillips Excellence Award. George Phillips, I'm sure, would be very proud of you to be carrying this title, this award, and hopefully, in the not-too-distant future, just as the minister has talked about a graduate from St. Vincent, from the University of Harvard, who was a recipient of this same award, we look forward to calling your name in the not-too-distant future for some outstanding accomplishment as well. It's been my pleasure to spend these few minutes with you. We know that you will do well. God bless you all.
Thank you, Vice President Jules. Appreciate it tremendously. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker today is Professor, who's just in. I'm going to ask our past President Reuben John to please come and introduce our featured speaker. And after Reuben, the next voice you hear will be that of Professor Robbins.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Past President Sinclair. Ladies and gentlemen, I must say that the students, you're privileged, and you should count this as a special opportunity. Professor Justin Robertson, he's a Vincentian. I know him well. I've seen him grow and develop. When he left secondary school, he did his internship at one of the chartered accounting firm, and I was a partner in that firm. I recruited him. After he finished his degree, he resumed working with the firm, and at my very first encounter with Professor Justin Robertson, I spotted within him the level of focus, discipline, and a work attitude that I thought at that time will propel him to the top level of the accounting profession. His preference was finance. And so he sat with me and he said he had the opportunity to do a master's in finance and that he would go on. Not only that, when he went to the University of West Indies, his life impacted on 3 of my children. I have 3 accountants. I'm a chartered accountant, and I have 2 chartered accountants and another accountant. And they pass through his hands. And they speak about the experience with Professor Justin Robertson. And so when we were looking for someone to speak to you, I told the committee that there's a young man, well, not so young now, but that I know of, that I want to bring to St. Vincent. And they said, you think Professor Justin will travel from Barbados to St. Vincent? I said, I'm going to make it possible. I'm going to speak to him. When I spoke to the professor and I said, we want you to come to St. Vincent to speak to the 4th farmers. Do you have an objection? He said, I would love to do that. And here he is today. And you are very privileged to have somebody at that level in your presence. And I trust that you are going to make use of the opportunity that the Rotary Club has provided to you, and that you're going to take and listen to the insight. When I tell you that he has touched the life of 2 of my children, 3 of my children, and 2 are chartered accountants, that there's no understatement in me saying so. All right, Professor Robertson, he hardly needs any introduction. He has a PhD from the University of, a PhD in finance from the University of Manchester in the UK. He also holds a master's degree in Finance and Economics from the Florida International University, and a bachelor's degree in Management Studies from the University of the West Indies. His main interest is in corporate finance. He's involved also, he's a member of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Barbados, and he's also first Vice President of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you, a son of the soil. He's from Kittels, so you can associate yourself with him, you can relate to him. He is a son of the soil, and he has made tremendous strife regionally. Welcome, Professor Justin Robertson.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let me thank Ruben for that warm welcome. The welcome isn't always so warm, you know. I have memories of being invited with my supervisor in England to go and give a speech in Yorkshire. And we got there a bit early, and the treasurer was wrapping up his report, and he didn't know we were there, and he was saying that things had really improved for the organization and their finances were better. And they were so much better that next year they could afford some better speakers. But I want to thank you for this very warm welcome. When I was told I was to speak to some Ford farmers, and I was talking to Ruben, I had wanted to make the topic from 1982 to 2022, and Ruben talked me out of it. But the reason I wanted to pick 1982 is that I was in Ford Farm in 1982. Just like you, I was a Ford farmer at St. Martin's. Yeah. Yes, so I see we have a St. Martin's honoree on the list here, so I'm going to be a little Marlon Scott. You get a special call out as a St. Martin's boy. And because I really thought, it's such a different world that you live in compared to the one I grew up in 1982. And I'm noticing on the corner of my eye that looks like the old St. Vincent goalkeeper, Dorian. That's right. Yes. 1979 football team. Yes. But I remember as a youngster taking the van from Kittels every day, getting off the bus, the van by Webb Shop, walking up to St. Martin's, and we did that trek every day, and it's such a different world. So can you imagine a world, there's no cell phones, doesn't exist. In fact, in the village I grew up in Kittels, my mother, who is a very interesting woman, we had one of the few telephones in the entire village, and we used to always have financial problems because it was kind of the village phone. And you would have a lot of long distance calls, and my mother might find some very large bills at certain points. So it's a world with no cell phones. We had one TV station, came on around 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon, and went off by midnight. And in fact, we didn't have SVG TV then. I think SVG came on about 84. We used to get TV station out of CBC TV out of Barbados. There was one FM station. There was no FM station. We didn't have an FM station on the island. Okay, we had one radio station, and that used to go off around midnight as well. So it's an entirely different world that you are growing up in, and I wanted to maybe talk to you briefly about some of the opportunities and some of the challenges. And I kind of wanted to speak to you briefly in 3 parts. What do I see as some of the big challenges that you have to deal with? What are some of the big opportunities? And a couple of what I call themes or more guidelines as you navigate these opportunities and these threats. So I'm going to start first with something a little boring, but I think is very important for your generation, because when this thing becomes a real problem, most of us up here might be dead and gone, but you have to live with this climate. So the climate crisis is something that is not appreciated enough, it's not spoken of enough, and it's not enough part of your consciousness. So around the world, the past 6 years have been the hottest on record. The world is heating up at a rapid pace. There's an organization called the Living Planet Index, which tracks the abundance of living things on the earth. And between 1970 and 2016, the last time they reported was 2016, 68% of the species on earth had disappeared. More than half of the living things on earth disappeared between 1970 and 2016. And it's part of a broad point. The climate change thing is not an academic issue. If we can't deal with this crisis, the planet will become increasingly unlivable as we know it. And if you take away a few things from today's talk, I want you to to remember 1.5 degrees Celsius. 1.5 to stay alive is something that we at UWI have been lobbying and the Caribbean around the globe in a major way. The science tells us that if we cannot contain the warming of the globe to 1.5 degrees Celsius or less, then in 20 years, the Rotary might want to have this function, but they couldn't have it here. Because this location would not be a feasible location. This location would be unsafe. A lot of Kingstown would not be livable if we cannot contain that rise in global warming to below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Again, the latest IPCC report, where UWI plays a big role, if global warming gets up to 2 degrees Celsius, all coral reefs on the planet would be wiped out. All coral reefs would disappear, and 37% of the world population, and especially people like us, will be exposed to extreme heat, unlivable heat, at least once every 5 years. So again, I'm not going to bore you with some of that details, but if we cannot get that down within 1.5, then life as you know it, particularly in small island development states, is not going to be safe. And that's an important part of your consciousness. Now, why is this important to you? What it means, though, is that the way we live now is simply not sustainable in the next 20 or 30 years. The implication of the latest studies, and I mean, if I want you to remember one slide, is this: the climate crisis, 1.5 to stay alive. The implication right now is that the damage from climate change is becoming less gradual, and unless we take unprecedented and urgent actions, the Earth could suddenly reach a point where the climate change becomes irreversible. And life as we know it, where a large percentage of the population and the economic activity is in close proximity to the coastline, we mean the Caribbean, St. Vincent, will be severely challenged. So we have to change the way we generate electricity, how we do public transportation, how we do farming, how we live is going to have to change in a fundamental way. It sort of reminded me of Ernest Hemingway's famous novel, The Sun Also Rises. You know, in that novel, the main character, Cohen, was asked, well, how did you go bankrupt? And he answered in two ways: gradually and then suddenly. The world is becoming unlivable in a gradual way, in a way that you are not noticing it, but it's going to get to a point where it's going to be sudden. So it's therefore urgent that your generation own this crisis. You're going to have to live with it. All of us up here are going to be dead and gone. It's your world. So you need to pressure your leaders to take action, because a lot of the changes have to be made now. And you need to be the change and be a catalyst for action if we are to avert this catastrophe. So one takeaway, 1.5 to stay alive. The world has to organize itself to change the very way we live so that we can contain global warming to within 1.5 degrees Celsius. And it's especially important for us Because we are not generating most of this warming. We are too small. But like in so many cases, we are on the front line because we live by the seawater. We are on the coastline. So that's one of the major challenges that your generation is going to have to confront. The second challenge I want to talk about is the crime, what people call intentional homicide. The Caribbean is one of the most beautiful places in the world, but it's also one of the most dangerous. Caribbean people are some of the most loving people, but apparently they are also some of the most murderous people. And that we live in a part of the globe where people will kill you in a dispute. So the most recent study done by the UN of crime, of murder, intentional homicide around the world, and in the top 10 countries, as you can see on your slide, how many countries from the Caribbean are in the top 10 in terms of the crime, the murder per capita? We have 1, 2, 3, and if you count Belize, 4. Okay, so this is a major challenge that you are going to be navigating. Certainly when I was growing up in 1982 at your stage, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have a lot of things, but I didn't really think about getting shot to death. But that is a new challenge where you are going to be coming of age in an environment where violent crime is an integral part of life. There's a very troubling story reported in the Nation newspaper of Barbados today where they're reporting out of Jamaica, where the Jamaica police chief is reporting that there are contract killers in Jamaica who are willing to murder someone for 196 Barbados dollars. That is the fee that people are accepting to commit murder. So you could have so we are living in a part of the world and in a time where you could have a dispute with someone, and someone you don't know murders you for $100 US. Okay, so crime, violent crime is an integral part of the world we live in. I mean, and if you've been watching the TV recently, you would have seen a lot of these shootings in the US. Now, those things get a lot of TV coverage, but we take gun crime. And I never really thought about it until I was a PhD student in Manchester. Manchester is a big city. I was there for 4 years, and I cannot remember one incident of somebody being shot to death. But in these tiny islands, every so often someone is going to be shot to death, and that's become a part of life for us that in some ways we are almost immune to it now, but we can't become immune to it. Life is too precious. And one of the challenges for your generation is how did human life become so cheap? Why are people in our islands so comfortable murdering other people? And I think we have to deal with these issues front on, and you have to deal with it because you are growing up in this dangerous place, beautiful but dangerous place that we call the Caribbean. I know it's young people, so I tried to do a couple of fancy slides. I hope you all appreciate the effort that went into these colorful slides. The third challenge is really chronic non-communicable diseases. Again, it's a fundamentally different world. There's a way when you look back, you always think when you were growing up was better, but really, sort of grew up in an environment where only old people died. Now it seems that our lifestyles, the success, and in some ways, my colleagues in biology tell me that we are really the victims of success. There's a lot of food around. People have access to food in a way that they didn't have access to before. We have access to motor vehicles and transportation. You have 24-hour cable. You have very comfortable homes. As I think about COVID, I just wonder if COVID had happened when I was your age, how would we have coped? Because, our homes weren't so comfortable. You couldn't spend that much time inside. There was no internet to go online and so on. But it seems because of this success, our lifestyles have led to this epidemic of chronic non-communicable diseases. And a lot of these are what people call premature deaths. A person growing up now, living the lifestyle that we have taken for granted, even with all the modern medicine, cannot really look forward to a ripe old age, because a lot of persons are dying from these chronic non-communicable diseases. And we know what they are: diabetes, high blood pressure related. And what are the main causes of these? One of the interesting things is a lot of these are preventable. So smoking, high sodium intake. Why on earth would people living in a Caribbean island have a diet low in fruits? It's kind of mind-boggling. Low levels of physical activity, alcohol. So again, a lot of these are preventable, but they are part of this modern lifestyle that we are living. It's very appealing. The food is very tasty. It's nice to lie on the couch and watch YouTube and so on. But this harsh, stark reality is that it is killing us. Okay, people are dying, or their quality of life is seriously undermined at early ages by these NCDs. So again, this is a major challenge that you have to deal with, because these diseases, cancers, respiratory, diabetes, they account for over 80% of all premature deaths. Now I want to focus now, I don't want to sound like a harbinger of doom. I want to focus quickly on the opportunities as we try to wrap up. Now, I'm an economist by profession, so I spend a lot of time around the economy and thinking about the economy, working in different economies. And it is my professional opinion that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is at what we call a point of economic takeoff. You know, so St. Vincent is what we call a sort of a middle-income country, per capita income of about $7,000 US a year. And we are at that point where we've built a lot of capacity. There's been all that investment in human resources, the education revolution. We have an airport, international airport. We are redoing the port, a number of these. And it's really creating the catalyst for an economic takeoff. And it's critical that you position yourself to benefit from this. And one of the things I really would want to impress on you at this stage, and I mean, the minister is here, I think it's important that we see education as a tool for economic empowerment. I think the challenge for your generation at this stage is, how do you use your education as a tool for wealth generation? You know, when I was growing up, there's a way in which we sort of wanted to use education for status. You know, you were brighter than everybody, you had the most subjects, and you went for very stable jobs, and you had this status. But there was a dark, dirty secret behind it. What was it? Behind that status, you had no money. You were living paycheck to paycheck. You don't have anything to pass on to your children, and so on. As St. Vincent, I think, gets off from this economic takeoff point, I think it's critical that we go the next step, that these educated people we are generating, like yourself, brilliant, that you are not just thinking that you want to become employees. You want to become owners. You want to generate wealth. Because there's always a danger that you have the economic takeoff, but the wealth goes to a select few, unequal distribution. What the challenge I want to put out for you is that as St. Vincent builds out this modern tourism industry, for example, that you use your knowledge, your education, the same skills to do as well as you've done academically calls for a lot of skills, discipline and so on. Those same skills, that same brilliance, to put it kind of bluntly, I encourage you to try to use it to make some money. Generate some wealth for yourselves and your families as distinct from what has happened in the past where that wealth has gone into a few hands. I couldn't take this opportunity without putting in a shameless plug. I'm sort of writing a book on economic development at St. Vincent. I'm going to be in St. Vincent next couple of weeks, kind of doing the research. And I'm trying to fill in the gaps. I mean, St. Vincent has a very interesting economic history. We've tended to avoid recessions. When I look across the Caribbean, we've had among the fewest, because I have data from 1961 to 2021, and we haven't had very many recessions in those periods. We have been steady-o, and I'm quite intrigued at getting behind some of these numbers, and maybe I might call on some of these bright young people to help me with some of the research as I knock around. Okay, as I try to move forward with the opportunity, now we are in a digital age, and this is critical. I probably don't need to tell you all too much about this. I mean, as economists, we call this the fourth industrial revolution, where there's a fundamentally different way in which we now produce goods and services. I think the COVID-19 pandemic maybe gave you a bird's eye view of what this fourth global revolution is. And the world is beginning to embrace this and is moving at unprecedented and unrelenting speed, impacting all aspects of our lives. And I think critical for you, you are a digital native. You're what we call digital natives, not like us up here, who had to learn the digital world. You were born in a world where the main technologies were in place. So you are native to this digital, and I would suggest to you, as you're seeing there, this is your space to dominate. And my challenge to you is, in this digital era, don't just be a consumer as we seem to be doing it now. Our young people are consuming a lot of digital media. They are consuming YouTube, Facebook. Don't just be a producer, not just a consumer. How are you using this space to project yourself? So again, we don't want this to be like the previous ages where we were really just the consumers buying other people's goods. It provides you with a platform that you can sell your skills globally. A classic example of this is at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Barbados launched something what they call a Barbados Welcome Stamp, which said, okay, in this pandemic, anywhere you are in the world, you can come and locate it. You can physically be in Barbados, sit on the beach with your laptop, and do your work anywhere in the world. And on mornings when and that has transformed aspects of Barbados. When I go to the beach for my morning walk now, I am running into a lot of Indians, people from Eastern Europe who are saying, well, in this digital age, I do not need to be in cold Estonia to do my job. I can sit down on a beach in Barbados with my laptop. I was very pleased with the broadband. Once I have good broadband, I can work from anywhere in the world. I mean, with this pandemic, I've been thinking in terms of what I'm doing. I say, but I have, so for example, someone like myself, I would have had to leave St. Vincent to pursue a career as a university professor. But there's actually no reason for me to be in Barbados and work right now. I mean, at 5 o'clock this evening, I'm having a class, and I'm going to be showing off the mountain view in my background and while I'm doing it. I came in yesterday. I serve on the board of Jamaica Money Market Brokers. We had our board meeting yesterday. Nobody needs to be. So whatever skills and capabilities you have, there is no need for you to be anywhere. I mean, space is no longer really the limitation. And if you're a talented musician, you can get your stuff out on YouTube and so on. And I think the challenge, so second thing I want you to make sure you remember and think about. So the way we sort of economists think of things is that everything is a value chain. Okay, so whatever is being produced. So think of tourism. By the time a tourist lands to St. Vincent, what are the many things that have already happened? They have had to book a flight, book a hotel. There are several steps. And what the digital age allows you to do, and what I think you should be focusing, how do you insert yourself? I think the policymakers in St. Vincent, how do you insert the country into global value chains? What aspects of these activities can be done in St. Vincent? So if you think of Barbados, the main source of corporation tax in Barbados is from the offshore sector. But what have they been able to do? They have been able to insert themselves into the global value chain as a center for tax planning. How can St. Vincent insert itself into global value chains? How can you insert yourselves into global value chains? And that, I say, as a digital native, this is your space to dominate and be a producer, not just a consumer. And I give an example of the value chain here on your screen for cryptocurrencies, one of the big new things. And again, you can insert yourself as an individual or a country into any aspect. And as I try to wrap up, you've had a lot of talk, so I will try to be quick. And I sort of have 4 points that I want to raise in terms of navigating. So one of the things I want to emphasize for you that I think I've learned is that relationships really matter. And it can go from the high to the low. It could be as simple as I flew in yesterday. A lot of people in the airport, long line. I see this guy who was in Form 1 with me in St. Martin's. I don't even know he's a customs officer. I shout the man. He said, "Oh yeah, but Justin, that's you." And boom, I out the line in a hurry. But relationships, you know, Ruben calls me about this thing. Ruben was very kind because, you know, I got that summer, in his comments, I got that summer job where he was a partner because my mother was friends with Sylvia, and I sort of walked in there knowing nothing, and he sort of held my hand and taught me everything at that point. He was very nice to me then. So if Ruben calls, well, I can't tell the man no. But relationships matter. You know, these people you are seeing, these people you are sitting with in your class today in here, you don't know. I look at Curtis, I mean, I'm sorry, Minister, shouldn't address you so informally. But you know, I applied for a major job last year. And in his role as Minister of Education, he was effectively part of the panel making the choice. Now, if I hadn't got along with him before, you never know, you know. No, but at the end of the day, people live, they work, and they do business with other people. So relationships are extremely important in life, and it's an asset that you have to manage. The second point, you know, it can be very easy to be focused on yourself, but the condition of your community, the country, the region, and the wider world affects your life chances directly. You know, economists, we do a lot of foolishness in terms of what we study, but one of the things that shows up consistently, that the country you are born and grow up in is one of the single most important factors that influence your success in life. So you know, we like to focus a lot on your own individual ability and your effort and so on. But where you are operating makes a massive difference to your life chances and your quality of life. Now, if that is true, then it means that you need to invest in your community. It's not just about, you have a direct role in making your community, your country, your region, the kind of place that persons can grow and thrive in. Why are you paying through your teeth for gasoline today? Because of some war in some far off place called Ukraine, Russia, that you know nothing about. So again, I'm saying be an engaged citizen, you know, sitting down in your own corner, beating your own books, taking care of your own business, that is necessary, but not sufficient. Your success is heavily influenced by the environment you are in. Thirdly, You know, technical and soft skills are increasingly viewed as equally important. So a lot of what we tend to do in the school system and so on is focusing a lot on your technical skills. But as you navigate, and particularly in the age that you are living in, what people call the soft skills, your ability to relate to other people, your personality, your problem solving, your creativity, your innovation. Because you know what? They can create an app. We're in a digital age. You know, they can create an app where you can pump in your symptoms and it gives you a diagnosis, you know. But what AI can't do, it can't replace that doctor with a good bedside manner. So those soft, those human skills, these are increasingly becoming the source of advantage, because a lot of other things you can do with technology. And my final point, I'm not sure this is a word, I have it, control your controllables, but that's something that was said to me when I was in sixth form here, because I remember when we were in upper six, there were a group of us, my friends, Sean, Daisley, Joyette, you know, we were at that point where we were really fretful, because they said, you know, because Curtis, I mean, the minister spoke about the revolution. When we were in sixth form, when I was in sixth form in St. Vincent, and I really want to put this in, because time will pass and people will forget. When I went into grammar school for sixth form, there were 32 of us in that class. So that was the entire sixth form for the whole country, you know. And you know what the conversation was that year when we went in? But this class is really big. Because when I looked at upper six, the upper six was probably about half of the lower six. So imagine the strides we've made as a country. Right? So imagine if only, so if this was 1982, probably only the 27 of you in here, because you are so bright, and 5 other people would have been able to go on to the equivalent of college. Huh? And back then, there was one island scholarship. I mean, that's just one. Only one person could get it. If all 32 of us, and it was GCE then, if all 32 of us got all A's, only one person could get that scholarship. And we were very fretful about where we can get the money, what we're going to do next. And Miss France, she was our GP teacher, and she used to bring in these guest lecturers, and there was a guy, a doctor, Vincentian doctor, E.G. King, and he said, I hear you guys, but he said, look, there's a lot going on around you, but just control what you can control. He said, look, the only thing you can control right now is the grades you get. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot of issues, but focus on what you can control. What is under your control, get your part done, and then you can sort of navigate the rest. So I want to end by saying to you, again, congratulations on your achievement. Please celebrate it, savor it. Many times you give up your best and you don't get what you deserve. So when it happens, really treasure it. I would encourage you to make wise food and lifestyle choices where possible. Pay attention to your carbon footprint. Be an engaged citizen. Be a good neighbor. And nurture your relationships. And what I want to say to you, whatever you're thinking, enjoy this stage of your life. You will never ever have it so good again. Because after this comes paying bills and all sorts of responsibilities. So I thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. At this time, I'm going to hand over to President Ruben to take us through the next part of the program that deals with the presentation of the awards, the certificates. You'll be instructed and told what to do.
gifts? Everything attached? Get some help.
Somebody will cut this in.
Okay.
And then you just flow like, flow with the hand. You get somebody.
All right, thank you so much for your patience. At this time, I'm going to invite our sponsors, representatives from our sponsors, Flo and the Bank of SVG, to come forward to assist us with the distribution of awards, gifts, and special tokens to our hardworking fourth formers present.
We should go down, yeah? I think.
What's best for photos? Ask the photographer what's best.
Don't you indicate that all three gets
Yeah, you can get a nice backdrop. So a representative from Flo is General Manager Mr. Wayne Hull, and we have from the Bank of SVG Mrs. Patricia John, Customer Service Manager. Students, stand by. We're going in order of as you are listed on the program. So at this time, I'd like to invite Kamali Hooper, the Adelphi Secondary School, to collect his award. Congratulations, Kamali. And the awards are distributed by past President Reuben John, assisted by Rotarian Secretary Felicia. So as we're aware, Kamali receives a certificate, 2 years broadband from Flo, and gifts compliments the Bank of SVG in addition to a brand new savings account. Thank you, Hooper. Tiffany Oliver of the Beckwith Community High School, you're up next. And Tiffany, thank you for traveling all the way from Beckwith. It's a pleasure to have you and your peers. Tiffany Oliver, Beckwith Community High. And we also invite Ms. Kylia Oliver from the Beckwith Seventh-day Adventist Secondary to stand by. Kylia Oliver, Beckwith Seventh-day Adventist Secondary. All right, we welcome Ms. Oliver as she comes. Congratulations to you, Kylia. Up next, we have Miss Elizabeth Solomon of the Bethel High School. Is Miss Solomon here? Or a representative from the Camden Park Secondary School? No? All right, so we move on to Mr. Jamie Stevenson of the Bishop's College, Kingstown. Jaime, in Espanol. Jaime Stevenson, Bishop's College, Kingstown. Congratulations, Jaime. Awesome. From the Bookament-based secondary school, welcome Mr. Mozart Laviel. Welcome, Mozart, of the Bookament-based secondary school. A very small school community. Congrats, Mozart. And coming all the way from Kanawan Secondary School, we have Miss Naima King. The Grenadine students have a little special place in my heart because I always admire the fact that these are students who have to relocate at some point to continue their education, and you know, it's not always an easy challenge. So congratulations to you, Naima, and also to those from Beckway as well. Well done. And Union, yes, very true. All right, from the Central Daywood Secondary School, we have Mr. Jadon Griffith. Congrats to you, Jadon. And from the Dr. J.P. Eustace Memorial Secondary School, Ms. Zonel James. Zonel James. And Dr. J.P. Eustace Memorial is one of our two secondary schools where we have Interact clubs. Welcome, Zonel. From their sister school in Mesopotamia, we have Miss Summer Kittels, the Emmanuel High School, Mesopotamia. Summer Kittels, congratulations to you, Summer. And joining us all the way from Connery is Mr. Derek Daniel from the George Stevens Senior Secondary School. Congratulations to you, Derek. Indeed. All right, going further north. From the Georgetown Secondary School, we welcome Javon Warren. Javon Warren, is he or she present? No? All right. So we come back down to Kingstown, to the Girls High School. We welcome now Miss Anna Warrican. Congratulations to you, Anna. Well done. From the Intermediate High School, Mr. Orlando Gibson. Congrats to you, Mr. Gibson, on a job well done so far. And folks, these are names to look out for and faces to remember, you know, in years to come. Orlando Gibson, Intermediate High School. All right, so from the Mariaquah Valley, we go back to the Mountain View Academy Secondary School. Mr. Caden King. Welcome, Caden, from the Mountain View Academy Secondary. And from the North Union Secondary School, Miss Janice Bilinji. Is Janice present? No? All right, so we move on swiftly to the Pittibadell Secondary School, Mr. Romario Horn. And I believe that's our furthest school on the leeward end, is it? Pittibadell? I think so. It's a secondary, right. Represented here this evening. Congratulations to you, Horn. All right, so Zamara is the very first guest present this morning. And I know she's had a very long day. They were here at 9, owing to a scheduling mix-up. Welcome, Zamara Lewis from the Sandy Bay Secondary School. We appreciate you making the journey and being here with us today. Zamara Lewis. Congrats to you, Zamara. All right, so from the St. Joseph's Convent, Kingston, we welcome Lauren Bayer. Lauren Bayer, congrats to you, Lauren, on your excellent performance over the years. St. Joseph's Convent, Kingston. And from the St. Joseph's Convent, Maria Kwa, we welcome Felicia Walters. Congratulations, Felicia. Felicia's alma mater. Awesome. Back to Kingstown, the school that holds a very special place in Professor Robinson's heart, the St. Martin's Secondary School. We welcome Marlon Scott. Marlon Scott. Where did Marlon go? Okay. All right, but moving on to the St. Vincent Grammar School. The St. Vincent Grammar School, we welcome Bradley Alexander. Congratulations to you, Bradley, on outstanding performance over the years. And at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Dorian Phillips, son of George Phillips, to present the final 6 or 5 awards. Dorian, we're happy to have you representing your dad, of blessed memory. From the St. Clair Dakin Secondary School, we welcome Kanye Peters. Congratulations to you, Mr. Peters, on outstanding work. From the Thomas Saunders Secondary School, Akin Kane. Congratulations to you, Akin and Mom. A proud moment indeed. Yeah, we have to celebrate excellence, you know. Got it? Awesome. Well done, Akin. Trumaka Secondary School, Trumaka, Ontario Secondary School. Miss Grace Francis. Welcome, Grace. And congratulations to you, Grace. Grace is not here? Okay. From the Union Island Secondary School, we have Miss Leona Tittle. Sorry, Leona, I thought you were Grace. My apologies. Leona Tittle from the Union Island Secondary School, all the way from the Southern Grenadines. We're happy to have you, Leona, and congratulations to you. And our final recipient this afternoon from the West St. George Secondary School is Mr. Giovanni Joseph. Congratulations to you, Giovanni, on your outstanding performance. Thank you, sponsors, Thank you, Mr. Phillips. At this time, before we disperse and begin to slip away, I'd like to invite all the recipients to come forward so we can have a photo up with our sponsors before things get a little messy at the end. So we'll do that now. And then invite President-elect Daniel to offer a vote of thanks. So perhaps we can have a shot with the students and the sponsors first, and then have the teachers join in as well. So teachers, stand by. Come, center, central. Professor Robinson.
We have the ability. We have the ability. Can we take the 14 students and the Rotarians present? Yeah, right.
All right, so this is the order of photos. Students and sponsors and featured speaker. And then we'd ask the teachers to join in after. And when the teachers return to their seats, we'd have the Rotarians present, just so there's not too much crowding.
You could pick the students. Right. And these are what we have.
So she has to pick up one from the student because she didn't bring I can hold it, no problem. No, after. Remember the secretary.
After, yeah.
Smile if you can.
All right, teachers.
You see your teacher.
Sorry there.
You're still doing carries.
Just find your students and
Everybody, right? Just do a slip in between instead of why you see that. Slip in between.
They could find the students, find the students. Just kind of find the students.
No, I'm not coming in front, and I'm not taking off my mask.
Find your student line.
It's in front there.
You could have two.
Yeah, good. That's good.
Smile in reverse, Adam. somebody upside down.
Ruben.
Sorry, students. The students and Rotarians, and then we do the vote of thanks.
Students come back. Students come back. Students come back.
Yeah, man, correct.
I'm done.
Joe. You have let me stand up here, please. Thank you. Thank you. All right, you've been a wonderful audience indeed. We'll have a final feature as we have the official vote of thanks by Mr. Daniel Campbell. Thank you very much indeed for being here. God bless. Mr. Campbell.
Have a seat, please. We just have a vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Campbell. I am the president-elect of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent. I'm excited that this was a successful event, and I just want to thank everyone for coming out here today. But there are some persons and organizations that I would like to specifically express some gratitude to. So first of all, I'd like to thank past President Dr. Sinclair Thomas. It's Dr. Thomas who is behind me. I won't be brief, okay? All right.
Say it in brief.
I won't say it in brief. And he was an excellent master of ceremonies. What do you think? All right. I would like to thank past President Joe Sheridan. Can't miss him over there, Joe, for the lovely invocation as well as leading us in the national anthem. I was looking forward to you playing, but at least you started us off. All right, so I would also like to thank the caterers that was provided by Miss Clara Providence. Lovely food today, and dessert and drinks. All right, I would like to thank our own club president, Dr. Janelle Allen, for giving these lovely welcome remarks. Thank you for taking the time out, Dr. Allen. And I would like to thank our past president, Dr. Jules Ferdinand. I think he had to step up. Yeah, Dr. Jules Ferdinand, for giving a feature of George Phillips to let you know the man behind the award. I'd like to thank, special thanks to past President Reuben John, who introduced the feature speaker and who was really the mastermind, the person who arranged the event, who was chairing the arranging of this event. And thank you. And I suspect you are behind the anonymous accounting firm who arranged the great professor here. Speaking of that, I'd like to thank Professor Justin Robinson, Pro-Vice Chancellor of UWI, I'm very proud that the Vincentian was here to present to us, and we're very proud of you and for the timely advice you gave to the students. Okay? I'd like to thank the sponsors, Mrs. Patricia John, still there, of the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for their excellent gesture, awarding each student a bank account as well as a starting amount so that you'll be able to invest that in future endeavors and build on that. Also, that's a great initiative. I was actually a recipient of the George Phillips Award in, I can't remember which year, and that bank account is still open, right? So that might be some motivation. I won't tell you how much is in there. Not a lot. I'd like to give a special thanks to Mr. Wayne Hull of Flow and the team at Flow, also the team of Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for that excellent gesture of providing 2 years of free broadband service to each of the recipients. And that will go a long way towards their future development, current and future development. I'd like to thank all of our other sponsors, including BDO, Correa's Hazels Inc., Correa's Distributions Limited, Grenadine Airways, Jaden Inc., as well as St. Vincent Brewery Limited. I really want to thank the press for the excellent job and coverage that they did here today as well. I don't see Cap around, but Cap is actually... Oh, Cap, sorry. He always likes to keep a low profile, but I will keep bigging him up. Thank you for running the live stream for us. We're being brought across live right now. And I would like to thank all the teachers. You are our unsung heroes. You have done an excellent job throughout the pandemic, volcano, and every other thing that's tossed your way, and we're happy for you to come in here. I don't see Minister Curtis King, but thank him. Oh, sorry. Thank Minister Curtis King for that address to us today. And thank you all the parents. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here to see the excellent work, or the fruits of the excellent work that your children have done. Right? Thank you, children, for coming out. You could have been anywhere else, playing any other game. All right. And thank you to Murray's Heights Hotel for actually hosting our guests from the Grenadine schools. Right? So we really appreciate it. This is a community effort, and great things can be done when we work together. So thank you, everyone. And on behalf of the Rotary Club of St. Vincent, I look forward to next year and wish you all the best in your endeavors. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks very much, man. I really appreciate you coming, man.
Sorry, all the parents who want to do the registration for the free internet now, if you want to take that opportunity, you could do it in the table to the right of me. If you're looking up to me, it would be your left. The table in the